Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all our viewers this evening on Doctor in the House. I have another really interesting program for you. I have some really interesting guests tonight, so I hope you folks can stick around. Before we get on to the topic tonight, which is what causes obesity. I think it's a bit controversial in Trinidad now. It's been in the news. And I got around to thinking, I'm not sure that my own views about being overweight are like everybody else. I have my own peculiar views on it. And I think that, I thought it was a good idea that we get some people who take an interest in this. And let's hear people who read into the subject and have a professional interest in it. So tonight we're going to be talking, the topic tonight, folks, is what causes obesity? Big subject, huh? Big subject. And let me tell you how big it is. Guys, can you all put up that first image? Let's see if they have it up. The problem is that this is a very big problem. It's extremely prevalent in Trinidad and Tobago, and the prevalence is just getting worse and worse. And they don't seem to be able to have any way to control this exploding epidemic of obesity, particularly in third world countries. Okay, so maybe we should come back to this in a minute. Maybe you guys could try to ring Dr. Jagannath, if possible. Before we get on to this obesity conversation, there's another rather topical thing that's in the air right now, and this is the Sahara dust. So, yesterday was quite a dramatic day. It was a Sunday. I was up in the northern range, and the hills looked different to anything I'd seen before. I couldn't figure out what was going on with the weather, because I know the place so well, and it's just this strange haze all over. And then I read in the papers it was the peak intensity level for Sahara dust. So I thought it was a good idea to talk to a specialist here, because a lot of patients are physically unwell from the Sahara dust. I believe we may have Dr. Jagannath on the line. Hello there.
Hi.
Hi there, Dr. Jagannath. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Oh, thank you very much for your invitation, Feroz.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to be given the opportunity.
Okay. Well, talk to us a bit. Dr. Jagannath works mostly in South Trinidad, right? You don't work in North. But I don't know how much of the Sahara dust was down there, but it was plenty up here. I imagine the whole island was blanketed in it.
Yeah, so it's quite prominent today and yesterday as well. In fact, I looked at San Fernando Hill from the Gasperia region, and basically almost barely made out the outline of it.
Wow. Okay, has that ever happened before in your memory? I mean, I can't...
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it has?
Oh. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us then, do you think that this is upsetting your patients, your respiratory patients, and the ear, nose, and throat patients?
Yes, certainly. I can tell you, based on the type of patients who have been popping up to my office in the past 2 to 3 weeks, complaining a lot about respiratory symptoms, both upper as well as lower respiratory type irritants, symptoms like coughing and sneezing and runny eyes, itchy skin. It affects both people who have medical conditions as well as people who are otherwise healthy because of the volume of particulate matter in the environment. So in patients or people who are endeavoring to do work in the outdoors, especially over this period of time, you find that they may come down with respiratory symptoms even if they've never had such things before. For patients who actually suffered sinus problems, obviously it will be a flare-up of their condition because of the particulate matter they're exposed to. And so they may find themselves having to increase the number of, or the amount of medications that they have to use to keep their symptoms under control. So it would be a good idea for them to stock up on their antihistamines. Things, just to call a few names, not being specific, it would be things like Alegria or Arius or Piriton, commonly names of common medications used for sinus problems. In patients who are asthmatic, we've seen a few exacerbations recently, again related to the environmental conditions. And what's important to note is that asthmatics in particular, or any patients with respiratory problems, they should be acutely aware of the problem and walk with their medications in case of any flare-ups. In particular, the inhalers like Ventolin, etc. What they may find happening is they're having increased flare-ups, they should consult with their physician, and they may have to actually increase the dose of their maintenance medications to keep the asthma symptoms under control or their COPD conditions under control.
Okay. So asthmatics, now, well, from what I was trying to read up, in Barbados, they seem to have correlated a big rise in the asthma incidence with the levels of the Sahara dust over the past 15 years. But I guess that's really hard to prove. It's just an association. So what you're saying is that asthmatics are at a definite risk of exacerbation, and should they stay indoors? Should they stay in air conditioning?
I would recommend avoid the outdoors as much as you can, given the onslaught of the condition, of the influx of Sahara dust at this point in time. Because
this air conditioning
sort of gives you some layer of protection. But if you have to go outdoors, be prepared to walk with your medications. In case you get an attack, you'll have an immediate reliever available.
Right. So I see in some big cities there where these things, I always wanted to ask somebody this. In big cities, people go around with these little caps over their nose. Does that do anything at all?
Certainly, I think it's a wise move to have the dust mask, at least, if you have to go outdoors, to wear it. I mean, it's not fashionable in Trinidad, but certainly abroad, and people in the inner city dwellers, there are these masks which are available even online and so on, where they have good filters that can actually filter out things from dust all the way to certain pollutants in the environment like ozone, etc. So it's a wise investment if you know that you have a brittle asthma case or a brittle respiratory condition and you have to be in the outdoors. It might be a wise investment to look into it.
Right. Okay. So we can expect more of this asthma dust. From what I tried to Google it earlier, and it said between February and October.
Yeah.
So we probably may expect more. I guess it depends on whether it's an El Nino year or La Nina, and it depends on a whole lot of different atmospheric conditions. But
I think so. It happens both in the rainy season as well as in the dry season, and I guess it's very acute and pronounced in the dry season because of the lack of rainfall. However, I also did some reading up, and it was saying that, in some situations, it's actually a blessing in disguise because with the overlapping of the existence of Sahara dust in the atmosphere and the concurrent existence of hurricanes, they seem to think that they counteract each other to some extent and may actually weaken storms. So it's a bit of good and bad balance out each other, but we have to brace for it in our situation in this dry season.
Yeah. All right, well, great. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And if we have more stupid questions on respiratory medicine, maybe I could use you as a resource person on the phone. Dr.
Sure,
Shiva,
no problem.
Dr. Shiva, many thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Good night. Okay, so we'll take a short commercial break, ladies and gentlemen, and then we're going to be back talking about the obesity epidemic and what really causes obesity, because we're not sure if everybody has the same views in this country about what causes obesity. I mean, my own views might be very different from yours, so let's see if we could get to the bottom of it in a few minutes when we return from our commercial break.
High blood pressure is as dangerous as an overpumped balloon. Measuring your blood pressure every day can save you from risk of high blood pressure. MicroLife fully automatic upper arm blood pressure monitor with stroke risk detection. MicroLife AFib screens for atrial fibrillation while taking your blood pressure. High blood pressure and atrial fibrillation are both considered controllable risk factors for stroke. If AFib is present during blood pressure measurement, the AFib icon is displayed flashing at the end of the triple measurement. Once 3 measurements are complete, the measurement data are shown on the display. MicroLife, a partner for people, for life.
Medical assistance? Come check us out at Ultimate Medical Clinic. We offer a wide variety of medical treatments. Why live in pain and suffer with wounds and ulcers?
Ultimate Medical Clinic also provides laser therapy for pain relief and wound healing.
We also treat arthritis, knee, neck pains, diabetic neuropathy, diabetic foot sores, psoriasis, eczema, and many more health conditions. Call us today to schedule your appointment, 665-1188, or visit us at 111A John Street, Montrose, Chaguanas.
Keep refreshed with Oasis Premium Purified Water. Now available in more thirst-quenching options. 330 ml, 600 ml, 1.5 liter, and 5 liters. Choose the size that fits you best. Grab one today.
Right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, the Doctor in the House. So I'm Dr. Omar Dean, your host tonight, and my guests tonight are Dr. Raquel Sukhbir, who's been with us before, rather chatty and very interesting doctor, who I learn a lot from. She's going to be talking about obesity, what causes obesity. It's a real problem. Now, you all have heard my rants for many years about obesity, so I noticed I was just telling these girls that when I first came in and used to do Doctor in the House, I used to shout at the TV, all your poison you're trying with the sweet drink, and then they would do a commercial break and we'd have soft drink ads coming up. But I noticed that none of the soft drink makers are advertising, probably with IBN again, I hope. But I guess, you know, you have to, what can I say? You have to live up to what you preach, and you have to try to practice what you preach. So sorry about that, IBN, if I lost your advertisers there. But we're talking about obesity. Can you put up that first image for me? Right. So here's a couple weeks ago, a chappie from the ministry or something is talking about rising obesity rates in children. So this is not, these figures are actually very scary. Shall I quote some of them?
Yeah.
He is saying that, sorry.
Where's he getting his data from?
I think it's, but he's the president of the Diabetic Association actually.
Oh, okay.
So he's not a minister person. He says at least 50% of the primary school and secondary school children are overweight and are at risk of becoming diabetic.
Wow.
He's saying that, well, he talks about the usual, he talks the usual talk, but essentially he said that the most recent statistics showed childhood obesity increased from 2.4% in 1999 to 13% in 2009 and 55% in 2017. Now, if that is correct, that's amazing. So let's just go over that again. Oh, I think she was that person was probably corrected a bit, but essentially the conclusion was that about 1 in 2, about half of our children are either overweight or obese. So what we have is a dramatic increase compared to 1999, a dramatic increase in the amount of our children who are overweight and obese. Nobody can argue with this. And it's not a joke. It's dead serious. And you know why it's dead serious? Because I sit down in my office and I listen to these people day in and day out, and their bodies mashed up from the diseases that is caused, that nutrition caused them. And all I could do is listen because their bodies kind of, their heart gone through, their kidneys gone through, their brain mash up, all kind of things mash up in them. I mean, it's heartbreaking when you have to sit down every day. And so for a doctor, it can be, for a doctor who cares about the patient, it can be an emotional issue. This is not a joke. This is dead serious business. Put up the second image for me, please, guys. So here is the Guardian or Express. I forget which one it is yesterday. So on the left-hand page, I opened it at a random page, and every day in the papers there's something about weight and health. And I think newspapers are really good. There's really good information all the time coming out in the newspapers, and I don't know how much impact it makes on people. People probably don't even read it because they're fed up looking at the same thing. But on the left-hand page, there's this guy who dramatically lost weight. It was he said it was one of his biggest challenges of his entire life. He lived up to the challenge. He had gastric bypass surgery, and he radically changed his lifestyle, and he was an incredible success story. And it was an amazing read. Huh? The wait is over. But then I looked on the other page, and there I see some advertisement for a roti business. I see two chappies down at the bottom. I can't say anything controversial, you know, but look, roti doesn't make you lose weight. I'm very sorry, but roti making everybody sick. I don't eat roti. I stopped eating roti more than 20 years ago. There's no healthy roti. Let's just get this over. I don't care what these two girls have to say. We have Dr. Sukhbir and we have a dietitian. I really don't care. They can say what they want, but there's no such thing as a healthy roti. Maybe the contents of the roti can be healthy, but the roti itself is just flour. It's just pure calories. It's empty calories. It's stupidness. So eat if you want, but you're going to get sick, right? That's my take on it. So on the one hand, we have this guy who made an incredible effort. He's like a hero. And on the flip side, and just juxtapose, is these other guys who have to start a roti business because they have to make a living, you know, they have to find something to survive in this country. They're not easy to survive in this country. So it's sell food, yeah. That's what people want. They want food and they want roti, you know. make a good, healthy roti business. I don't want to make any comment on anybody's appearance, but you know, I want to say one thing about all the controversy. You know, people laugh at me for being skinny. Okay, I'm ridiculed sometimes for being underweight and malnourished, and many people actually think I'm sick. By the way, true. But if a skinny person is ridiculed for being underweight, nobody gets vexed about this, you know. Who cares? So this is a really complex issue. Let me introduce my two guests. On the far end, we have Dr. Raquel Sukhbir, who's been on the show before. Raquel, thanks for coming in.
Good night, Doc. Nice to be here again.
Really appreciate you coming.
I appreciate you inviting me.
Okay, and then we have Elise Hadid, who's Raquel's dietitian, works with her, and you're actually Canadian.
Yes.
Right, welcome to Trinidad. Well, you've been here for a long while,
yeah.
So you're going to be our technical consultant. When we say the wrong thing factually, you're going to correct us, okay?
I'll try.
So Raquel, talk to me. It's been really an emotive, emotionally charged topic over the past couple of weeks in Trinidad. It's a complex subject. Can't be simple if half the world is obese now or whatever. What's your take on this? What causes obesity? Why are almost all of us obese?
Yeah, so it is really emotive, and it's really close to my heart because, you know, it's what I spend all day, every day doing now. I really have looked into doing a diploma in obesity medicine. Well, I did one, and I'm learning more and more about it every day. And my patients that come to me have a multitude of problems, as you said, because of obesity being a disease, and we're trying to tackle this disease. So you ask, you know, what causes it? Is it something as simple as junk food and poor choices and, as was said, you know, lack of self-control? Is it how our society is structured and the choices that we have available to us and the way we were brought up and the decisions that our parents made and all of that? Is it that we're so busy and we're stressed out? Exactly, you know, and that we don't have time to exercise and we don't walk anywhere anymore. What exactly causes obesity? It's a very pertinent question, and I don't think we can answer it here tonight. But there are some experts all over the world who decided to say, you know, the World Health Organization decided in 2013, way back when, that it is a disease of its own right. And they gave it a definition. They said it's a disease of abnormal fat collection that is basically harmful to health. And the Obesity Medical Association, American Obesity Medical Association, came out with a definition that I like. And it basically states that it is a chronic, relapsing neurobehavioral condition. So the word neurobehavioral, I don't know if you can help me, Doc, explain what that means.
Never heard that word before.
So it basically, to break it down, it just means that the chemicals in our brain are affecting our behavior. And to take it further, you know, it's basically that there is a medical cause for the choices that we make and the way that we eat and how we sleep and the why we don't want to move and don't want to exercise and all of those things. I am not trying to make excuses. I'm just stating the facts.
It's something like an addiction, then, that's what you're saying? Because addictions are due to changes, imbalances
in the brain.
In the chemicals.
So some people, there are definitely elements of addiction. So if you know, eating disorder, food behaviors can turn into eating disorders. Mm-hmm. And there's a school of thought that once it gets to a certain point, that there's behavioral interventions that need to happen with these patients to treat it like an addiction. But it doesn't always have to be. And then the definition goes on to say, you know, after raising the chronic, relapsing, neurobehavioral thing, that it then leads to what is called sick fat syndrome. So your fat starts to have a disease of its own. It starts to act like its own organ that is diseased, which then leads to psychological problems, it leads to medical problems, etc. And we know some of those medical problems and psychological problems, but we could go over them. So I just find all of that really interesting. It's complex and it's really a lot. And when I see somebody in front of me, like a 17-year-old girl who has gotten to a certain weight, like over 250 pounds, and this has been happening since she was 9 years old, and you know, we're trying to work on it. And I think, do you think that this is necessarily her choice, or she wanted to be in this position? No, you know, nobody. It's never their choice or one particular thing that has led to that, but it's a big umbrella of factors that has happened, and then we have to try to address it.
Do you think that the public are understanding what you're saying here?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Do you realize that what you're saying is so complex that doctors sit down and listen to this program and
yeah,
really
okay.
understand
So
what
let
Raquel
me...
is saying? No, but what he's saying is that they don't understand the cause of this disease.
No.
These doctors and patients, they want a simple explanation.
So there's the calorie in versus calories out debate.
This calories business, right? Calories in versus calories burnt. There's a guy on the net who I really like, a guy called Jason Fung, Dr. Fung.
Yeah.
He says repeatedly that the paradigm, the calories in, calories out paradigm, is the biggest failure of medicine of the 20th century. And he's probably right. It's a lie. It just doesn't work. We're telling people all day in, day out, eat less and move more, eat less and move more, and it doesn't work. They know it doesn't.
Generally, though, it's a good tool. I have actually been known to say to certain people where it's not, I don't think there is a metabolic, I'm going to use that word, and like a reason with your hormones, a reason with your, you don't have an underlying medical problem, and I can see that it is just a lifestyle change that you need to make. I have used calories in versus calories out in that generally, if you're less than 200 pounds and you don't have an underlying medical condition, and I know that it was a certain set of events that led, you know, for this weight gain to happen, I use calories in versus calories out. But it's a failure of a... Because...
What's a failure?
Calories in versus calories out.
It's a failure. That's what all doctors are telling all patients. Calories in versus eat less, move more. Eat less, move. I don't understand.
It's only something...
Just, whether in theory, whatever, but it just, in practice, it doesn't work. And doctors see patients for their entire life. They see people for decades telling them the same thing. Eat less, move more. And the patients just get fatter and fatter. So doesn't it figure these doctors, you know, maybe you should try some other strategy?
I feel in that case, though, it's more when they do that, some people mix that up with yo-yo dieting, and that's where we have a lot of problems. So I do agree that calories in and calories out is something that we have to look at for an overall healthy lifestyle. But what we want to prevent is the yo-yo dieting, because with that, people they want to lose weight really fast. And they go on these extreme diets with extreme restrictions, and they ended up doing low-calorie diets where they lose the weight, but then they haven't learned anything. They haven't actually learned how to eat. So then they go back to they've lost all the weight, now they're in their maintenance phase, and then they end up going back to how they eat before.
Plus another 2 pounds.
And then they end up regaining plus more.
So this is a typical way it goes, the yo-yo diet business, right?
Yeah, well, normally people come to me when they're fed up of that. When they've had enough, they've tried keto, paleo, Atkins, doing it on their own, and you know, they realize that they can lose. Anybody can lose 10 pounds, but how do you stop
but-
regaining 13 is the
Right,
big...
but if you're starting off at 250 pounds, losing 10 doesn't help that
Okay,
much.
we cannot
I mean,
be
it
so
does help.
we
It does
cannot
help.
be so defeatist.
No, we can be.
For-
Losing 10 pounds does not make a vast
Losing
difference.
10 pounds is a fantastic achievement in my book.
I agree.
Because it is hard work. You have to...
It is hard work, but has it helped the patient? Has it really made a
I've
big
seen blood
impact in their
pressures.
lifestyle?
Yes, if you've only lost 10 pounds, but you've lost 10 pounds of fat around your central obesity, around your abdomen, in addition to the fact that you've strengthened yourself, you're exercising, and you know how to eat, it helps sleep, which in turn then helps symptoms of mood regulation, so you may feel less depressed, your blood pressure will then go down, your whole optimism and your ability to cope with obesity as a disease increases, so you feel more empowered, and you can go on and do it again tomorrow, and then you lose another 10 pounds over the next couple of months, and you'll feel even better.
Right. But what I've noticed is, and this is
If you're
different people over
supported.
years, if you're supported,
If you're
I don't know, that's a big issue, the support
Right.
issue. But I do want to say that this is what normally happens, and it ends up being the usually because people lose 10, 20 pounds, and then you come back a year later and you see they've put it back on.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is it sounds good, but in practice, watching people over decades, it just doesn't seem to work.
Okay.
We need
So,
some other strategy.
Just some other strategies. So I've read some evidence that a BWMP, Behavioral Weight Management Program,
Right.
is the only thing that is actually evidenced to get people to lose weight in Europe, the UK, and the US. And that is if a patient engages for 6 months. They lose weight and it's permanent weight loss, they keep it off. And so I then realized, okay, so how am I going to, practically achieve this? So I set one up, and that is what I have. I run a behavioral weight management program for my patients, and it is so much more than just about losing that initial 10 pounds, because anything could happen, just like what are all the causes of obesity. You could be put on medication that because you have a psychiatric illness that will then make you put on weight. You could injure your knee because you're playing sport and then you are at risk of putting on weight. You could have a death in the family and become really, emotional and need to turn to comfort eating and then put on weight. It's life, There's so many factors that's going to make you potentially put on weight if you are so predisposed that you have to have a support system in place for that. And it doesn't have to necessarily be your doctor, your physiotherapist, your dietitian.
Well,
it could be your, well, I'm hesitant about gyms because I treat a lot of elderly
I'm
patients who
hesitant too, yeah,
gets
yeah.
injured and then it's game over.
Okay, but Raquel, I'm sorry, I have to say, it's not the doctor.
Okay, we are the support network then.
I don't think so.
You've got to make your...
Doctors are completely hopeless at being a
Doc.
Listen.
You're going to get yourself in trouble. No.
If you want to lose, sorry, guys, if you want to lose weight, you
not
went to
all
a doctor.
doctors. Not all doctors.
Let me ask you,
not all doctors. I think, I'm not, well, I don't really know, but it's so topical right now. I'm sure there are lots of doctors at home reading up on it.
But how long does the average general practitioner spend with their patient? I mean, can they really I mean, what you're talking about is really time consuming. You have to get to know the persons inside. You have to form a close relationship with them, and you have to be in touch, in contact. I mean, this is hard work.
Yeah,
This is becoming their friend, their confidant, their friend. The doctors can't. Doctors have to make a living too, and I understand doctors' positions, but doctors don't spend. Even Britain, how long they spend? 11 minutes. A general practitioner consults with a patient. So in Britain, in the NHS, it's not a doctor who does this. It's a support system, a more complex support system, Okay, I'm sorry, Elise. We talk a lot, you know. You're trying hard to get a word in, but you'll realize you're only have to shout if you want.
Elise raised to me that some of my thoughts on the whole thing were a little bit archaic, like doctors. So you were saying, you know, most of us just give out advice about low-carb diets.
Right. So a lot of doctors in medical school spend very little time in nutrition.
Actually, let me correct that. They spend zero time. We had, certainly when it's West Indies, but all American and European medical, maybe European a little better, but North American schools, most of the doctors say zero amount of time in lectures was teaching nutrition.
Right. And these are usually, the doctors are usually the first source that people go to. And with very little nutrition information, they kind of give out information that's inaccurate, that's old. You know, they tend to go to low-carb diets. That's what everybody should do, which is not the case. So it's really finding the people that are going to be able to help you. And registered dietitians are experts in nutrition. And we actually have a wonderful group of registered dietitians here in Trinidad. So, and they're everywhere. So we spend, so as you were saying, doctors spend about 11 minutes with their patients. We can spend up to an hour with our patients every time that they come and see us. So we're getting a lot more information from them. You know, we work in a multidisciplinary team, so we also go back to your doctor. We discuss with your doctor what it is that we found out during our sessions, and we kind of come up with a plan together. And that's one of the best ways to go about, well, treating any kind of condition, really.
Okay, so you're saying, what you're saying is a critical person in this support system that Raquel is talking about here, this big infrastructure you need to try to influence somebody's life. Because, I mean, this is not a simple thing. The weight is not just too much food. It is a very, very complex illness involving their psyche, but involving the society around them and the psyche of their family. And most to my mind is stress. I mean, I know that stress greatly affects how I eat. Once I'm stressed, I start to eat. It's almost like a relief. It's almost like an escape from, you know, this world coming in at you, you know. So what Elise is saying is that the dietitian has to be an important. They have the ability to be the center, you know, this support system. You agree?
I agree. I agree. She's key.
It's not the doctor then. So okay,
I spend a lot of time doing it. But I'm a different kind of doctor.
And you have an interest in this.
And
the
I have
average GP does not. And who can blame them? Because I mean, first of all, can I just I think the three of us agree on one thing. Let me chat here. You see, if you want to lose weight and you go into your doctor, good luck. It doesn't seem to work. Okay.
Oh my God.
I sympathize with the doctors too. I mean, the doctors, first of all, it's really, really hard work. It'll take a whole lot of time and effort on their part. They have to try to get on with their life and make a living too. We're talking about doctors in the private sector, not people who have no salary. So unless they can earn something at the end of the day, they have nothing, you know. So the doctors, and it's not just in Trinidad, even in the United States now, if you look at the way that the general doctors are being interfacing with patients, the time they spend with patients is less and less and less. You can't treat obesity. You can't treat this really complex disease. This is a very complex disease. This is not eat plenty and get fat. It don't work like that. Sorry, everybody who vexed with me could say what they want. But this is a very complicated disease process. It's a social disease. It's a psychological disease as well as a physical disease. But it can't. If you go into a doctor's office, sit down and say, "Doc, I need to lose weight," and you expect to get joy out of this, good luck. I don't know how well it will work. Some doctors may be able to help you, but the average person is not going to get joy out of this approach, right? I think the three of us agree on that. Raquel is a bit different because she has a particular interest in this type of medicine. I don't know if many many doctors in Trinidad are doing this. Some do try. There are good doctors who try,
but I had to learn. I was never taught this at medical school. I didn't really encounter it in any of my specialty training. So I independently did courses and have learned this medicine. Plus, I have a couple of mentors who have weight loss clinics in the U.S. that I learn from now, like as an ongoing thing when I get stuck. Because there's a lot of, you can't see a patient when you're seeing them for high blood pressure and as a side note, oh, you have to lose weight, go and lose, it doesn't work like that. You have to have independent consultations for weight loss. And just like how you would take a history and examine somebody looking for the cause of their stomach pain, is the same thing that you would do for the cause of their overweight. And then you have to go and investigate it. I refer to other physicians, so gynecologists very frequently, to see if there's any, well, chicken or egg, is there polycystic ovarian syndrome caused by being overweight? Has the overweight caused the polycystic ovarian syndrome to become, to be there? I don't really often know which one it was.
It's still the same thing. It's just hyperinsulinemia.
Hyperinsulinemia. But so there's pre-genetic causes for both obesity and polycystic ovarian syndrome. So anyway, to diagnose any other and help me treat conditions like that, looking for thyroid problems, spending a whole set of time on mood and sleep regulation, and it takes a lot.
But even a simple thing like sleep regulation. I mean, sleep is something I have fought with for decades, okay, to try to control my own, because I have sleeping problems. So I listen to patients. I tell all of them, if you want to lose weight, you have to be psychologically healthy. You have to be fit. Sleep is, I say there are 4 corners to health. One is nutrition, one is the physical activity, the next is the psychological activity, and the 5th is sleep, or the 4th is sleep,
Yeah,
so sleep, I keep telling you how critical sleep is, but you think anybody listening to me? Listen, they want to stay up till midnight looking at TV. Why? Because their day was so boring and stressful, and all their family giving them stress, and at least the TV is a little escapism, It's not like all the kids are addicted to this, their little phone. Well, that one, boy, that's a mystery to me. But it's an addiction.
It is an addiction.
Yes.
That is
that is part of the problem.
That's a problem.
We could spend our whole evening talking about this thing.
An entire evening talking about screens. I know, that one is very difficult.
Okay, but the electronic screen in the night, for instance, all our viewers right now is 8:41, right? I mean, really, they should be looking at TV. You all should be going to bed. You should be, what I have is in my room is I have a red light. I keep, once it passes 8 o'clock, I just go into a darkened area with red light, and I try to avoid the screens, but
you could just live in the world still, Doc, and get a blue light filter for your phone.
I have one.
You have one?
And I have one for my computer screens as well.
So that's good. That's good enough.
It helps. I think it helps. Yeah, every little bit helps. So sleep hygiene is a big issue. But you have to want this. You have to really say, okay, so my sleep is important. I'm going to make this thing a big priority.
I think, as you get older and you start to have problems with sleep, it becomes more of a priority to you. And that's when people are normally, once they cross 40 and their hormones dysregulate, that's when they're ready to talk to me or have this sleep conversation. But with its role in obesity, it's really key. So there's evidence to show that if you get less than 7 hours of high quality sleep a night, the leptin will go down and you will basically not feel satisfied in your life. So you're opening the cupboard and the fridge and you don't know what you're looking for, but you're looking for something to satisfy you.
So leptin is one of the little hormones that control hunger, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's even more complex than that.
Yes.
It regulates your physical, basically how satisfied you feel, whether you seek to eat more and whether you seek to move and do physical activity or not.
Right.
So yeah, it's complicated. It's complex.
So I don't think it's just necessarily as simple as getting 7 hours. I think it's just a regularity in the circadian pattern, you know.
Yeah.
And every human being is different. We're genetically programmed differently for sleeping. You have to get to know your own patterns and get to know what's optimal. So I think it's a really complex thing, but 7 hours. Okay, so many of my patients work shift. Many of them nowadays, jobs are not easy in Trinidad right now. People catching it, and they have to work, they take their work home with them, you know. A mother working till, a mother who job knocks off at 5 o'clock and she spends 2 hours on the road getting home and then grabs some junk food for her kids to eat because she has no strength or energy to cook nothing in the night. And then what does she do? I mean, you know, she can't just jump in bed and go to sleep after that. She has her housework and she has this, she has to psychologically reset. And this is a very, very, modern life is killing us in very complex and insidious ways that aren't immediately obvious, you know. That's my take on it. Okay, so you think sleep is a big part of obesity?
Well,
so
I think it's a contributing factor.
It's an important, you'd go with that too?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I think so. One thing we could recommend to you guys and people in TV land is sleep. If you want to lose weight, I think sleep is central. You need to optimize. You have to get to know your own body. You have to read a lot, and you have to make sure you get enough sleep, high quality, restful sleep. What about stress? You want to talk a bit about stress before we try to? You want to say a word about stress?
Yeah. So, the thing about why I'm passionate about this whole recent thing in the news in the last couple of weeks as well is because when you are overweight or obese, there are so many chronic stress factors that have led you to that point in terms of, you mentioned it, you know, how it regulates how you eat. And then just the fact that cortisol itself is a hormone that will make you put on, store any calories that you eat as fat, and particularly around the central region. And the last thing that we need in addressing this obesity epidemic, as you said, is stigma. And any kind of negative emotion with regards to how a person feels is another stressor. And what is that going to make them do? It's only going to make them make poor choices, eat more, and potentially turn to food for a comfort. So we try to get out of using or thinking of food as a reward in what we do, and it's very difficult. Even after my patients have lost weight, you know, I want to say, we were talking about it this morning, weren't we, Elise?
Yes.
Now you can have a treat. And Elise said, oh, you mean like buying a new piece of clothes for themselves or doing something? And I said, no, I do actually think about it like you can give yourself a treat meal. And she said, well, we have to change what that's called and call it a cheat meal. Because really, food is not the answer to our problems. And when you think about your stressors and how you cope with them, you know, alcohol is a big one in this country, but also people really do turn to going and eating whatever, opening their cupboards, being by themselves, doing a lot of nighttime eating as coping with stress.
Yeah, and that's a problem for me because I tend to get up late night. I have delayed phase sleep disorder probably, so I get up regularly in the night and I eat. What else is there to do? You're bored in the middle of the night. You're not supposed to look at your computer screen because that's going to keep you awake. So you just sit down there looking at the walls, and so naturally you tend to eat.
Are you sure you're not waking up hungry?
I don't know.
You're eating.
Like,
Sometimes
is your stomach waking you up?
Sometimes I'm not. No, I don't think so.
Because if you do, then you should have a late night protein snack.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. Before we open the lines, let's talk a bit about eating then, because I mean, what patients want to hear, what they want to hear, they're not hearing from us tonight. And so far, they're wondering, what are these people talking about? They want to know what to eat. But we are telling them this is not a simple thing about what to eat, you know, to lose weight, but what you eat is important. So who's going to talk about this now? Okay, suppose let's say an overweight person comes to you. How are you going to approach advising them what they should and shouldn't eat? Or how you approach it? Because it's such a complicated thing.
It is very complicated, and I know that most people aren't going to like this answer because I'm not able to give you exactly what you want, but everybody is very different. So the way registered dietitians, we take their history, we look at every aspect of their life, and basically we try and individualize our recommendations for that person, because what works for one person doesn't work for another. So it's really not that easy. So if it's overweight and, you know, obesity, then I might then look at, you know, if I'm doing a recall, what are you eating? Is this a typical day for you? And kind of looking at their habits. And then as you start, you know, kind of talking to them, they open up a little bit more, and they might tell you, okay, well, actually, I eat a little bit more than I told you. And then you're kind of getting at habits. So then when we're looking at, okay, when you're eating, you know, were you upset at that point? Are you an emotional eater? I have people who tend to pick at foods all day and think that they're eating less because they're doing that, which actually they're eating a lot more than they think they are. So it's not that easy, but in general, we do try and, you know, and do like an overall healthy diet. And also one of the main parts of this is ensuring that it's something that they can attain. So are you able to actually do this? If I'm telling you that ideally I would like you to cook at home, are you able to do that?
Yeah.
If I think that meal prepping might help you, is that attainable for you to do? Because these are some of the problems that people go through. So they think that, you know, one thing is that they need to change their life overnight. Well, most people aren't going to stick with that. That's too much of a change. And next thing is...
So you emphasize this is not an overnight thing. This is over a couple, I would say years.
Years.
In fact, it lasts all your life. Yeah.
All your life. And we try and go towards more a healthy lifestyle that works for you. So, you know, I avoid extremes. I really do. I try and avoid, you know, certain diets. You know, I stick with moderation. That's what I like to encourage, because obviously eating is emotional. It's also social. So when we're out and we're with family, you know, I can't tell you to you know, go out for a Christmas dinner and not eat anything there. You would tell me, no way. As opposed to teaching you how to eat when you're out. So how to go about eating at restaurants, how to go about eating during holidays when people tend to gain weight. That is the better approach to kind of teaching them the basics of healthy eating. So that is my goal. Instead of like, I want you to go on this diet where it doesn't really teach you. You know, we do offer meal plans, but it's more of a tool. So it will be something I will teach you actually how to go about using it. So how to look at the meal plan, how to look at recipes, and how to adjust them for your tastes. Because what I might like, you might not like. So, you know, in building that, I have to really individualize it towards the patient.
Yeah. But there's some simple, like, simple substitutions that I would like to say that you can start with. So you're pioneering against roti, for example. So I would say, fine, eat curry chicken with cassava or dasheen or green fig, like instead. And it's just changing. You take a little while, you get accustomed to it, and then it's a lifetime change. You're not going to miss roti that much.
Yeah,
if you
stop for 2 months, you don't want to eat it again, particularly. Yeah.
And stopping things completely can sometimes lead to binging, which is what we try and avoid. So teaching people really how to eat some of their favorite foods in moderation, adjusting the recipe so that it's a little healthier, adjusting portion sizes, because that's key. That really helps them kind of take control of their eating habits and their overall lifestyle. But there are definitely very simple things that you can do, easy swaps. Overall healthy eating, obviously we want an increase in physical activity along with, you know, changing some of the eating habits, increasing your water intake, you know, avoiding sugary drinks, as you had mentioned before, it is an issue.
Yeah, if we take away just the sugar that we have in our tea, that's a big one.
That helps, yeah. Well, I never was for moderation. I'm not, I don't, it just doesn't seem to work because I have, okay, you know, these patients, well, many of my patients think my lifestyle is a bit extreme. So they when I start to talk to them, they say, "Doc, everything in moderation." But they're the ones who's sick. You know, they've had bypass surgery and they're telling me about moderation. I don't want to hear their advice.
Well, let me say that moderation is more for, you know, if you're otherwise healthy, if you have to avoid certain things because of a medical condition, then we would obviously tell you, you should avoid that because it obviously makes you sick. But if, you know, in teaching moderation, they get to learn actually how to make food choices, which I think is a really big factor that people don't know how to make food choices. And that's not on them. Our food environment has increased so much over the years and we have a lot of nutrition misinformation out there that they tend to listen to maybe the wrong people. And then just the promoting advertising and marketing, that's what it's there for. They get these, you know, they make these products look amazing and that you can lose weight, or it's just one food that's going to help you, but it's not. It's
like the misconception about whole wheat roti. Everyone says, I eat roti, but it's whole wheat. And I say, so what?
They think that's moderation.
It's not, it makes no difference whether the flour is white or whole wheat. It's the same flour.
Well, the difference between me and you is that the patient, when I talk about extremism, the patient listens and they say, oh, this guy is nuts. So I've lost my opportunity to help these people, I suppose, or many of them. Whereas with you, they listen to this moderation and you're able to develop a relationship with them and teach them.
Right.
But, I mean, in the long run, though, my opinion is that moderation doesn't work.
I would say
it's a path on the road, perhaps, you know, or sorry, a point on a journey, you know. Right. I keep telling people this is a journey, and you for the rest of your life you have to keep learning, and I'm still learning. I mean, you probably both still learning, you know.
Definitely, always.
Definitely.
Always.
So,
but the thing is that you have to get people on the road.
Right.
Like you have to make some progress, and then once you make some progress, you can do a bit more. So, I normally. I'm very extreme, like you. I say, please stop eating gluten, flour, dairy, soy, and corn. And then they see Elise, and she's like, you can eat those things. But, you know, so that because we need to make some changes, then people will feel better. Then they will make better choices, and then they will probably altogether start eliminating on their own.
Right.
Okay, this is interesting.
Rather than feeling deprived.
Let's hear
So if you're too restrictive, they will not stick with it.
Yeah,
so maybe they're looking at
hearing
your diet and they're like, no.
That's why all my patients go ahead.
But this is why it's individualized, because I look at somebody and I'm gonna look at, are they actually going to maintain this? If I tell them to be that restrictive,
yeah.
Is it better for them to be that restrictive and then binge later and gain? I don't think so. I'd rather them introduce it a little bit, show them how to eat, and you know, it isn't, moderation does mean something different to everybody, but I try and teach them ideally what would that mean in what we're like for you, for that person. For instance, yeah. So that's why I say everything's individualized, and moderation is not so like, you know, some people do, you know, listen to it and then run with it and just think that they can eat whatever because they consider that in moderation. But that's not really what I mean. I try and teach them the best way to eat an overall healthy lifestyle, but still include some of their foods, because I know that they're more likely to stick with that, prevent binging and prevent that weight gain, as opposed to, I want you to cut out everything, and then they're just come back to me, fall off the wagon, and say, I just ate, you know, a whole thing of, you know, KFC, and then I just continued because I felt bad, and I thought that, well, I'm already on this, I already, you know, didn't do so well with this meal, let me just continue.
So it's two different approaches here, right? And it's a bit, I think the moderation approach is good, and if you can have a long-term relationship, you can be that support system that Raquel was talking about, you know. In practice, so I mean, at least in Trinidad, it doesn't seem to work very well because it's thrown out to people without that support system. Sort of, it's a journey, you know. It's helping them along a journey. It's a really good starting point on a journey, but my opinion is that the society, there's nothing moderate about this society. This is extreme. The society is in an extreme way trying to destroy your health, and this is my take on it. This is what I feel about my own health. It's advertising. Look, the business about the roti advertising next to the guy, which basically the biggest challenge of his life, you know, to lose weight. And then on the opposite page, guys selling roti, you know, to make people fat, you know. It's nobody's fault. I'm not saying it's Roti Joe's fault. They're doing what everybody else doing, you know. They're just trying to make a living, and that's the right way to do it. But the point is that just as they have no choice, you know, our choices are in the society our behavior is driven. It's driven by social pressures, heavily by marketing, and heavily driven by our own stresses. And it's stress that is at the centerpiece. A lot of doctors tell me this, especially the older ones. They look at their patient and say, you know, most of these patients come to me. The real problem underlying the whole thing, the center, the thing is stress. Stress your child on drugs, stress that your husband giving you pressure every time your husband drinking or abusing you some, you know, in some. There are all kinds of stresses we all under, you know. Stress that you're caregiving for some Alzheimer's father, you know, that you have somewhere. But you don't know these things until you really get to and start to talk to the people. Right. So I agree with the moderation approach if you can develop this long-term, you know, relationship and become a friend and a support system in the patient.
You know, if you start to eat better, then you start to feel better, and you start to get energy, and you start to be able to cope with your stress more. When I say eat better, I mean eating foods that really nourish you and give you proper nutrition, feed your brain, and help you to go to the toilet regularly and be a working, functioning organism. When you're, and once people realize that, how much better they feel, they just want to keep doing it. And they want to learn more and more and more about how to do it. And you just have to get in there and initiate a little bit of change. And then your body starts to work better, and you're like, yes, this is what I want. Actually, I can think clearly and deal with my stress, and, you know, rather than it's just all on top of me. So that, that's why at least, if not moderation, like the gentle, the slow approach at the beginning.
Okay. So we're going to open our telephone lines because I'm quite interested in hearing what viewers' opinions are on the cause of obesity, on how to approach it, and you know, if you have questions, well, we have two girls here who are into nutrition, into diet, and maybe they can try to advise you on specifics. So if you want, bring them. We'll open the line shortly. We're just going to take a short commercial break, and then when we're back on Doctor in the House, you guys can ring in.
High blood pressure is as dangerous as an overpumped balloon. Measuring your blood pressure every day can save you from risk of high blood pressure. MicroLife fully automatic upper arm blood pressure monitor with stroke risk detection. MicroLife AFib screens for atrial fibrillation while taking your blood pressure. High blood pressure and atrial fibrillation are both considered controllable risk factors for stroke. If AFib is present during blood pressure measurement, the AFib icon is displayed flashing at the end of the triple measurement. Once 3 measurements are complete, the measurement data are shown on the display. MicroLife, a partner for people, for life.
Need medical assistance? Come check us out at Ultimate Medical Clinic. We offer a wide variety of medical treatments. Why live in pain and suffer with wounds and ulcers?
Ultimate Medical Clinic also provides laser therapy for pain relief and wound healing.
We also treat arthritis, knee, neck pains, diabetic neuropathy, diabetic foot sores, psoriasis, eczema, and many more health conditions. Call us today to schedule your appointment, 665-1188, or visit us at 111A John Street, Montrose, Chaguanas.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Doctor in the House. I'm Dr. Omari, we have Dr. Supir, and we have Elise. Let's just call her Elise. Elise Hadid, our dietitian. So we'd be interested in hearing your views on the obesity epidemic, because this is perhaps this could be the single biggest health problem in Trinidad right now, and possibly the biggest health problem facing the human race. I'm not kidding. This is not a simple issue. Aruka is on the line. Hello there, Aruka. Good night, Aruka. Hi, thanks for calling.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, it's a good show. Just a cut thing short, is it possible you could give your audience some idea about what is best to eat for breakfast? Like if you have to have fruits first, oats, granola, egg, and one slice of bread for breakfast. Do you take the fruit first? This is somebody well over 70. They have a bad foot, and they can't exercise. But what would you recommend, that the type of food which you eat, especially when you cannot exercise, over 70?
So it's a good question. What's a healthy breakfast? I mean, of course, you have to individualize it, each different person. We'll hear all these, but I would disagree with everything they say. But we have to maybe distinguish diabetics from non-diabetics.
Doc, I understand your style, eh? So
yeah.
We understand your style.
Okay.
But the 2 young ladies,
yeah, and they're actually the professionals. So let's hear what they actually probably know what they're talking about.
At least people here want to now learn something the way forward. Whether it's moderation or what is good for you. Now, I just tell you how I will take in the morning. People run for coffee. If I don't have fruit first thing, I'm in trouble. Then I started using oats and granola because I think I get a proper bowel movement with that.
Yeah.
But now, and then probably 1 egg and a slice of bread first. And I use a lot of salad. In the night, before around 6, I will take something with vegetables, that is a soup, or steam it or something like that.
Oh, okay, well, you know what, I tell you what, sir, maybe we should just stick to the breakfast, because it gets real complex when you do that. A good question is, what's a healthy breakfast, sir? So which one are you guys going to?
So one healthy breakfast that I really like, I know you do too as well, is oatmeal is one of the best things that you could actually eat in the morning. And I know a lot of people are like, ugh, they don't like it. They think it's just mush. But there are ways that you could actually prepare it that taste tasty and that don't have a lot of added sugar. So if you do half a cup of oats, you could add your fruit to the oats if you want. If you want a little crunch, you could add a little bit of seeds, like sunflower seeds in there. Cinnamon is a nice spice that you could add to it to flavor it without adding any added sugar into it, like honey or maple syrup or agave, anything like that. And the reason why I typically recommend oatmeal in the morning is not only is it going to keep you full, but it's really good in stabilizing blood sugars, and it's also excellent. It has fiber to help reduce our cholesterol levels. So I think that's a great breakfast if that's something you would enjoy.
A survey of all the prominent weight loss doctors and what they ate for breakfast, oatmeal is essential. So oatmeal is, nobody will dispute oatmeal. What about granola? He mentioned granola.
Granola is okay as long as it doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. So you have to actually read the food label. When you're looking at the food label, look at the amount of added sugar that's in there. A lot of food labels now will actually state that will have a section on it that says added sugar, but if you're reading a food label that doesn't have that, then what I would recommend is look at the total amount of sugars and look into the ingredient list and check to see if there's any added sugars in the ingredient list. If it's one of the first few ingredients, that means it's one of the most used ingredient in that granola, because it's done in weight, so what weighs more of that food.
Oh, you're going to have to teach us how to read a food label.
I will. I'll come back on and teach you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's not, a food label, unfortunately, is not self-explanatory, so I can come back on and teach you how to do that.
But you're saying the granola is good, but the added sugars in the granola could be a little problem.
If you could make your own, even better.
Yeah.
If you could do that.
So, and you could sweeten your oats with real fruit.
Real fruit, if you can.
Wet fruit or dry fruit?
Preferably whole fruit, like if apples, well, I guess you say wet fruit. Yeah, bananas, strawberries. You do have to, it's not that dried fruits are bad, but they are condensed sugar, and sometimes some of these manufacturers will add actually even more sugar to it. So again, reading the label becomes really important.
But we won't have, we're supposed to move on, but we won't have time. He mentioned eggs and bread, a slice of bread, you know. I'm not in favor of eggs and bread.
Oh, I am. Absolutely.
Really?
Yes, yeah.
For breakfast?
Yes.
Eggs and bread? Okay,
yeah.
wow.
I like eggs and spinach.
Yeah. Eggs. So ideally, if you can do eggs with, as Kel said, spinach, and you have a vegetable, so your eggs are going to give you protein. I'd recommend if you want to do more than one egg, you could do one egg with the yolk, and the rest of it is egg whites. So then you would have the added protein, but not so much of the added fat. And then pairing it with a vegetable, or even adding a fruit to that, and a slice of toast if you're using whole grain toast is there's nothing wrong with that. That would be a balanced meal if you did that.
So do you want a balanced meal for breakfast? How many calories you want in that meal?
Well, it depends on the person.
What you just described. What meal you just described?
So
roughly.
An egg would probably be around, if I can remember, around probably like 7 to 8 calories with the egg yolk. And then you would have the egg whites, which are lower in calories. So you'll have the lower in calories, about 30 to 40 calories. And then you would have the added protein. So it's really, your breakfast could be anywhere between 200 to 300 calories. But I personally don't like to count calories.
You know, okay, fair enough. I can understand that. But I'm just pointing out, this is and then they're going to add a cup of tea with probably sugar and stuff. This is not a simple business. You're telling people to start their day with 200 to 300 calories. That was more than 200 to 300 he's eating.
Maybe what he was eating, right. But
he's adding oats to that and whatever.
Yeah,
so he's probably looking more like 300 to 400.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fairly hefty load to put in to start his insulin secretion for the day.
Yeah, you and I, Doc, have different. We have a slightly different opinion to the breakfast, lunch, and dinner snacks. I think because we both like to eat for insulin.
Yeah.
So intermittent fasting is
I don't know
is preferable in
I think if a lot of people do feel that they have to eat breakfast.
Yeah.
So I think they would prefer your approach.
People who want to eat breakfast.
And I think it's a good starting point. Because you can't tell them like I do stop eating the breads. You know, your approach is well stick to one slice of and you.
If you balance your meal, you're gonna feel full, and you're less likely to binge an hour later. Which is something that when we look at building meals that we want you to do. We want you to be full from what you're eating, so you're not eating an hour later. Because if you find that you're eating, every hour, then you're probably not eating the right type of foods, because these foods aren't keeping you full, and then you get the insulin spikes, and then you get the crashes, and that's what we do try and avoid. So having eggs and vegetables and a fruit or the oatmeal that I recommended, it will do that. It will keep you full.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, Kola, I hope you got something from that one. It's a complex topic, but it's an important one, the breakfast idea. Thanks for that call. Do we have another caller? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, hi there. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Hi, good night to the panel.
Good night.
Right.
Good night.
So I'm hearing all of you. I'm loving what the dietitian is saying because she does not seem to be a Trinidadian, but she understands dietetics and nutrition totally.
Right.
What she's saying and what we have to understand as well is that the culture of our people. Doctor, I did not see the program from the beginning, but it seems as though you're against roti. And there's nothing wrong with roti. As the dietitian said, there's nothing wrong with roti. If you compare a slice of bread and a quarter of roti, roti is made up with flour, whole wheat flour or white flour, some salt, a pinch of salt, and some baking powder. If you compare a slice of bread with that, it has lard or some sort of fat and yeast and sugar to make that yeast work. So the fat, the nutritional content or the calorie content actually in the slice of bread is more than in a quarter of a small tin roti. And we have to understand that even though the dietitian is saying have the oats in the morning, we as Trinidadians are accustomed to having roti or bread on a morning, that type of carb. Now the young doctor is saying that cut out, I would say, as I'm just using her words, I will say cut out corn, cut out milk, cut out white flour, cut out flour totally. No, no, no. There are nutrients in those things that is needed in the body. And you might think that you're doing something good, you know, at that point in time, but somewhere down the road, you will have a deficiency of vitamin Bs. Now, if you don't have a problem with wheat, you don't have a wheat belly, why are you cutting out wheat? You're not lactose intolerant. Why are you cutting out milk? There are nutrients in those food items that we need. Now, you ask as well about obesity in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, we are obese. We are becoming more and more obese. Why is that? The VAT was taken out of the basic food items. As we know, in transitioning countries, developing and transitioning countries, this is what happens. Why? Because it's a fast pace of life. As you said earlier, when a woman comes home, she has to see about her kids. I do that as well. I might eat something sweet and then start to cook. I might even take off my uniform before I start to cook. But the emphasis is paid on the family. So this is where processed foods come in, you know, convenience foods come in. What about green space in Trinidad? We don't have a lot of safe green spaces. The crime is so high. You know, it is really difficult to say I'm going to take a walk 6 o'clock in the afternoon when I come from work and walk for 1 hour. It is not safe. I have tried doing it myself, and I know it is not safe. You can't allow your kids to go in a park and play and just say, well, okay, well, let me run around the savannah while they're in the savannah playing with a ball. It is not safe. And we have to understand that. And earlier this week we saw
and you know, can I interject one second? Sure. Because I think in our lifetime we have seen the change in the stress, in the crime, the traffic, the congestion. Or people, when we were young, people used to walk. People can't walk now. It's dangerous. You don't let your child out of the house. You stay. In fact, many of my patients lock the door 3 times and whatever. And they themselves are scared to go there. Yeah, it's a profound thing. The whole society has changed.
And what do we do? So this is what I go back to, shaming and blaming. Right. Oh, you Trinidadians, you're the third fattest in the world, and this and that. We're so high in diabetes. You know, officially it is 12%. But really and truly, we have about 19 to 20% in diabetes, you know. You know, we have so much heart disease. It is really difficult. What about the mixing of the races now? If Indians are known to be diabetics, Africans might be known to have heart disease. Some other race might be known to have HDN. Now the thing about it is that when the mixing of the races comes in, what happens to the new generation coming up? It is really, really difficult, and we have to put it in perspective and educate people, educate ourselves more to start with, and educate not only the children, you know, and not only the adults, but it has to be like guerrilla marketing so that people can understand this is what it is about. Because as we all know, and I'm sure your dietitian will know this because she seems to know a lot. I really love her. I love her vibes. She does not seem to be a Trinidadian, but she knows what she's talking about. And in recession times, what do people buy to eat? They buy the cheapest things, flour, rice. Those are the cheapest things. And you see people getting fat in those countries. Why? Because that is all they could afford. Dumplings and tomato, or saltfish and tomatoes. Now your doctor is
that's actually a big factor, I think. My opinion, and it is something that people don't talk about, but it's really, it costs more to eat healthily. You know? In fact, I would have liked to have a whole program on this, how to finance a healthy eating thing. I think going to the market, for instance, is important, but preparing your own food at home, and what these girls are saying is that in modern life, people can't do it.
It is very difficult.
Yeah.
I work from home, and it is difficult for me. Now, the thing about it is that you might tell someone, don't eat roti and don't eat rice and don't eat bread and eat provision. But you think any Trinidadian is going to take 2 slices of dasheen and eat that? No way. A plate of cassava and tomato choka and saltfish is what they're going to have. And I know that for a fact because people told me that. That they cut out all the, I don't eat rice and roti again, you know.
But cassava, tomato choka and saltfish doesn't sound that bad to me. I mean, the saltfish is kind of heavy in the salt, but I mean, that doesn't...
You could just portion control that. And if you have extra time, you know, add pak choy. Pak choy would go really nicely with that.
But could you tell a Trinidadian, take 2 slices of, or 2 pieces of cassava and tomato choka? We are accustomed eating a whole plate of cassava. We don't measure that. We don't measure provision. What about when we make a soup? We put sweet potato, we put dashi, we put green fig, we put eddos, we put pumpkin, we put carrots. You know, so I think what I'm trying to explain and for you to understand is that we need to be educated. The people of Trinidad and Tobago need to be educated. As I said, I love what your dietitian is saying. I think she's teaching you a lot. And as I said too, she does not seem to be from Trinidad.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much. My keepers are telling me I have to give other callers a chance to talk, but thanks very much for the call. We learned, a lot.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything you or Elise or Raquel said, but we all agree it's really complicated. This is not a simple business, but thanks for that call. Let's have another call from Marabella. Hello there. Marabella?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Are you hearing me, doctors
yes,
in the house?
We're hearing you. Thanks.
Hi.
Yes, very much. Good night, panel. I'm just going to be very brief to you. A series of questions.
Yeah.
1. What could be considered to be the ideal diet for, let's say, for instance, for dietitians? If you do a comparative analysis across populations throughout the world, for example, the Okinawa diet versus the Mediterranean diet, this is respect to diabetics.
Right.
And can you give, and this is the second question, what is the benefits of going the raw diet aspect?
Right.
And then the third one, what about the vegan diet? I know Doctor in the House is debating about our culture in terms of eating roti or doubles versus, you know, other diets. But as you get older, we question the whole concept of whether the vegan diet is the ideal diet based upon our Caribbean people who eat probably a lot of fast foods and stuff, or foods that have salt, and we have a unique thing in the Caribbean. We eat a lot of cheddar cheese. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks very much. So let's see if we could get my friends here to is there such a thing as an ideal diet?
So, okay, it's very complicated, it really is. There's no real ideal diet that works for every single person. But there are diets out there that have worked, and we found have worked for many populations. So one, as you had mentioned, was the Mediterranean diet. That is a very good diet. It can actually reduce inflammation in the body. It can help control blood pressure. We can start seeing some normalization of blood glucose. The other diet that I would suggest you maybe take a look at is the DASH diet, which is the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So if you deal with high blood pressure, this might actually be a very good diet for you. What it is, it actually is a well-balanced diet. It does promote a lot of plant-based foods. It also has a reduction in sodium altogether and a reduce in fat, but we focus on healthy fats. So for both the DASH and the Mediterranean diet, they do have fats in it, but it's a focus on healthy fats. So those are the two that we know. There's been many studies, and we know that they work really well.
Cardiologists in particular, cardiologists will all support you strongly. DASH and Mediterranean, we like those. Okay, what about raw food?
That's a very difficult diet. That I would consider like one of those extreme, fad diets. If you could stay away from it, you probably wouldn't stick with it. It would probably take out a lot of foods that are healthy and that you do enjoy, like your saltfish. I think that's cooked, right? Yeah. So your saltfish, that you wouldn't be able to include that in a raw diet, and that's more to the extreme. And I'd more recommend you stick with the ones that we know work well, like the DASH and Mediterranean.
Right. Oh. And he asked about veganism. I'm vegan, so what do you think about that?
Definitely, vegan is if you can do veganism, for sure, it is a great way to go. We know that it works really well. We see a lot less disease in people who are vegan. So they have less incidences of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So if it is something that you can actually do, it is a great diet if you want to stick with that.
And it's not that hard. It's just training. You could gradually train yourself into it. Actually, you get to like it after a while. Like, okay, so we have another caller from La Brea. Hello there, La Brea.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for calling. Talk to us.
Good night, doctor.
Good night.
Good night.
And good night to the panel.
Good night.
Doctor, a very interesting program, very educational. But your caller before the last one.
Yeah.
Your caller before the last one. She's taking up all the time, nobody else could call to give to find out nothing at all. It should be limited.
Sorry about that. Okay. We'll try to improve that.
Yeah, and then she repeated herself one more time. I mean, you say the lady did all the things, and she just repeated herself. Thanks so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's all you want.
Okay.
Oh no.
We have another caller from Sawa. Hello there, Sawa. Good night.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening.
He used up my time, anyhow. One of the things I noticed that none of you touched on, or even a caller touched on, is that the doctors themselves, and nurses to a lesser degree, are part and parcel of the shame and blame. As an overweight person myself, I have been, and I have seen others, been humiliated and embarrassed in the clinics at the hospital. I have had the bad experience of having a doctor see me in a room and tell me, with the door ajar and patients outside, that it's high time that I lose this weight. I've been on so-and-so program for so long, and you should have addressed this by now. And I was thoroughly embarrassed. And there I was with my hip pain, because I have a hip problem and a knee problem, and I'm limping. And I'm feeling so totally embarrassed to come out of that room because I know the other patients heard. or you have nurses going to weigh overweight patients for a clinic and passing them to the hospital like a herd of cattle and making remarks, because the scale over there can't weigh them properly.
Yeah.
We go through these things from you all, from the same medical professionals who's supposed to know better. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. No, well, I could comment. First of all, doctors and nurses are just as overweight as everybody else, in my opinion. I'm not sure doctors are really the healthiest people, which is why you have to ask yourself when you go into a doctor to ask for advice on health, how healthy is this man or woman, But they're only human, They don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand this is a very complicated disease, and they apparently see it in some simple way. I don't know what to say.
I think that is exactly. I'm so sorry, Kola, for that experience that you had, and it hurts. It hurts all of us.
To hear that,
It hurts to hear that, and it's unfortunate, but it's our ignorance as doctors. So I think we know that we're supposed to tell you that you have to lose weight, just like how we're supposed to say you need to stop smoking, but we don't really know. We're not trained in how to do it properly, effectively, and it sounds like your experiences was just awful, and that is all part of the stigma, and the thing that closes down the ability for us to even try to help you, because then you'll never come back. And it's awful, but I'm really sorry that happened, and I hope it never happens again. And I hope that as a medical community, we try to learn how to treat this disease, as you said, that is very complex and difficult to treat, without saying, hey, patient, come on, you need to lose weight. That is not going to help. And that's just really so unfortunate that happened.
Okay, we're going to have to close our program, girls, but yeah, we've been struggling here tonight with, I repeat, one of the biggest health challenges facing the human race right now, certainly the country, but possibly one of the biggest facing the human race, or at least part of it. I mean, we hope we've made some sense and learned some. I've learned quite a few things, thanks, from you all and from the callers. But it's really an ongoing discussion, and I mean, we could have a program every week about this, Maybe we should try to do that and just have call-in people and hear their views and hear, And that probably is worth doing, We could just have every week in Trinidad, we could have, that's one way, because actually interacting with people and hearing their real stories. You see, we hear these stories in our offices, but it stays with us. But when if people are prepared to talk on TV about it, as that girl was, the experiences in the clinic, and so that probably is the way forward for us to all learn. Again.
Definitely.
Okay. So we can close our program tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us, Doctor in the House. I have to first thank my two guests, Dr. Raquel Sukweer and Elise Hadid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to have you all, and I hope you are both prepared to come again.
Yes, for sure.
So on behalf of my guests, the station, our sponsors, thanks very much for tuning into Doctor in the House, and we hope to see you again next week.
Thank you.
High blood